Hi, I'm Dawn, your life coach for this podcast of Life Coaching on the Move. Welcome along. I'm so pleased that you've chosen to listen to this today. You may be a brand new listener, and if you are, you're in for a short, punchy life lesson each week where there's a key takeaway for you to use in your own life in order to start getting the results that you want, turning things around and making changes. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. Thank you again for coming along and listening to this podcast. Today, you're on another dog walk with me, so that is why you can hear the bird song. I haven't put it in the background. This is genuine. And we are talking about overcoming our fears. My first question to you, as many of you know, is to start with a question. What are the fears that you have that may be holding you back in life, or fear? It may be just one, if any. Is it fear, social fears? Do you have social anxieties and shyness? Have you got a fear of public speaking? Is it a phobia kind of fear, about spiders, things like that? But the reason today I'm predominantly focusing on fear of talking to people, social anxiety, shyness, fear of public speaking, fear of speaking up in meetings, etc., is because that is the common thread in the subject matter that I work with one-to-one with clients. Actually, there's this whole group that commonly come to me of management or executives who have got to a level in their career, quite a high level actually, where they feel it's almost imposter syndrome, I would say, where they feel, how have I got to this point? How have I got promoted to this level? Everybody else around the boardroom table knows what they're doing. They feel a bit of fish out of water and a fraud, and they're terrified they're going to get uncovered. Scared of speaking up in meetings, and so a lot of them confess to me. They come to me privately because they don't want to talk to their HR department. They definitely don't want to talk to their peers about how they're feeling, or their husbands or their wives. So they come to me because I'm non-judgmental and not connected to them. There's no history, and I won't see them after the coaching. To try and overcome these fears, these feelings, this shyness, this social anxiety that they've had possibly all their life, but with each level that they've been promoted up and up and up, it has worsened and worsened, and it has hit a point where they are struggling so much they come for coaching. That is so sad that has happened for them for years. Just that angst, that struggle, it's just so sad that it has reached this point and it's been ongoing. Or equally, they've got to present, or other people have found themselves in jobs where they've now got to do presentations, or will have, and they're petrified. In fact, actually, speaking in public in a Mori poll, is the top most feared adult subject matter. Speaking publicly without sort of preparation and those sorts of things, spontaneous public speaking. Second to that is dying or death. That makes me think that people would rather die than have to stand up and speak publicly. So if this is a fear that you have, first thing is to be reassured you are not alone. I absolutely know that by the number of people that come through my door to try now and overcome it. The second thing to say is that absolutely can be overcome, and actually quite quickly and quite easily. So second reassurance. And I know this, I relate to this so much because I had exactly this. Let me share a very brief story with you. This goes back to actually when I was about 9 or 10 in primary school. And in our school, we had something called Thursday Forum, which meant on a Thursday in assembly, one of the children in the school would have to stand up and do a little presentation, do a little talk on something. And so throughout your years in primary school, everybody would get one go at this at some point. And this was my turn. And now picture this. We're in the large little hall in the primary school. We're in the main hall. All the children are sat in class rows, cross-legged on the floor. At the front is a row of chairs with all the teachers. And in the middle chair, facing the outward sea of children, is the headmaster, Mr. Burnell. I still remember his name to this day, and I'm now 53. That's how much a memory can haunt you. So this was my turn, and the person who's speaking on a Thursday stands on a little piece of raised stage from the stage that they use for their Christmas shows and things. A little piece of this in the centre of the sea of children, facing the teachers. So you're in amongst the audience, as it were. So I remember this. I was a little bit nervous, to be honest, but I'd written out my notes, and I had decided to talk about a film that my mum had taken my sister and I to see recently at the cinema, or the pictures, as we used to call them then. If you're of my age, you'll know that and relate to it. So anyway, Mum had taken us to see the film Born Free. Now, I don't know if you know this film, but it's based on a true story, a true woman who dedicated her life in Africa to the raising of orphan animals and that sort of life. And so I can't remember her name, her character name, or anything like that. But it's basically, the film is all about her living in Africa and the struggles, and she lives by herself, I think. And she had some I was telling the audience that she found these orphaned tiger cubs, and she raised the tigers and lived with the tigers, and you see her with adult tigers, and she is almost one of them, and a genuine, very real bond. And it is just beautiful film, beautiful music, beautiful scenery, as you can imagine. And you follow her life, and she has to set the tigers free in Africa, and then you see her try and adjust back here. I think it's a long time since I've seen it, but that's my memory of it. Anyway, so I am reading out a little précis that I had written all about this beautiful film and how sad it was at the end, etc. And I got through it, and I was relieved and proud, and I looked up to Mr. Burnell, as you always did, ready for his little thank you, well done comment. So I looked up at him, and he said, "Oh, well done, Dawn, that was very good. But I think you'll find they were lions, not tigers." And he was right, actually. But anyway, but there was a ripple of laughter amongst all the school children. And now, I don't think he meant that at all. I don't think he intended to say that, but it absolutely mortified me. I felt myself go red from my neck up, boiling up, my temperature rising, very hot. I remember welling up. My heart was racing. I wanted to cry. I wanted to run out of there. I was embarrassed. I didn't know what to say in return. Now, it was just a ripple of laughter. No children said anything afterwards. Nobody said anything afterwards. It was over in a second, but it stayed with me for years. I remember on that day thinking, I'm never doing that again. I'm never, ever going to stand up there again or anywhere and do that again and be laughed at and wanting to cry. So as I say, this is about a good 40 years ago. And just talking about it takes me instantly back there. And I carried that with me for years, until I was in my sort of late 20s, early 30s. I was in a job, I was in sales, pharmaceutical sales, and doing really well in pharmaceutical sales and enjoying it. And I remember my manager contacting me and saying, Dawn, the training manager role has come up. I would really like you to go for it. You'd be perfect for it. Can I put you forward? And I remember saying, no. I don't want to take that job. No, I'm fine. I'm sticking with sales. A few days later, he came out in territory with me on my patch for a sales review day, and again raised it face to face that time. But at Dawn, the training manager role is up. I really want to put you forward. You'd be perfect for it. Perfect development, and so on and so on. No. I don't want to take it. It's not for me. It's not for me right now, I'm afraid. why? And so we had to have a proper conversation. I want to know why you won't go for it. I don't understand it. And I had to say, because that job entails standing up at least 3 times a year at the large sales conference with the whole company, hundreds, and having to present to the whole sales force. And I can't do that. Why can't you do that? I don't want to do that. It terrifies me. I don't like, I've never done that before. It terrifies me. I just can't do that. I don't want to do that. And luckily, in his infinite wisdom, he sent me off on one of these outward bound development courses, an external company out in the mountains of Wales, I think, or the Lake District, where the trainers kind of put you through all sorts of different activities in a group, team building and individual activities where they break you down and build you up over 5 days, exhaust you, give you lots of feedback and so on. And so it was during this time that I had I was talking to one of the trainers, talked it all through, and I realised, that was when I was 9 or 10. That was the child and a throwaway line. And I came to the point where I realised in a light bulb moment that I am now 30 odd or whatever. And I am big enough and ugly enough now to choose my path. And I remember the moment where I said in my head, or I might have been to the trainer actually, I don't want my past now to become my present and my future. That is in the past, and that's where it should stay, in the past. But I was on a career basis daily, enabling it still to be present and enabling it to hold back my future. And why? And that was the point I reached. Why am I doing that? Why am I allowing a 10-second sort of sentence to path out my future? I have to let this go. And so what I'm saying to you, with if you have social anxiety, fear, shyness, fear of speaking up in meetings, fear of public speaking, you've got, best man speech to do, or father of the bride speech, or something, and it's terrifying you. The turning point is making the decision that I don't want to carry on with this. I don't want to carry this. It's like carrying a rucksack with about a breeze block, big block in it all of your life. You're carrying it around. I just chose to put a breeze block down, discard that rucksack and no longer let it be part of me. Just leave it in the past. And that's what all of us need to do. And so I know when the clients contact me and saying, I can't go on like this, I can't sit in meetings avoiding eye contact and busily writing down on my notebook all the notes that are going on in order to avoid eye contact and in order to hopefully avoid being asked a question or having to contribute, or sending my team members to do the presentation in my place because I'm too busy, air quotes, to try and avoid it, etc. They can't go on anymore like that. I have a client at the moment who's just come to me because he's sort of, I don't know how old he is, late 50s, early 60s, I imagine. And he is going to be father of the bride in a few months, and he is absolutely petrified of doing his speech. Absolutely petrified. At the moment, it's hanging over him. It is taking away all of his excitement and joy about his daughter being married and the beautiful day that they're going to have. Potentially, before he contacted for coaching, it's going to completely ruin the day and his memory. He doesn't want that. This is all born about by the fact that he, when in his early 20s, was the best man at a wedding, didn't want to do it, was scared anyway, and then bombed with the speech. This is his words. He completely messed the speech up, he feels, and it haunts him. It was one of the most embarrassing, uncomfortable and painful experiences ever for him. And he has carried that for years and years and years. And now his daughter has arrived in the world, grown up, and is now getting married. And it's his turn to do another speech. And it is horrendous for him, or it was. We're now working on it, and he's already, after just one coaching, turning it round in his mind and already beginning to look forward to it and see the possibility that actually it could be a pivotal moment, a thoroughly proud moment. and an enjoyable moment. So we're turning around his whole mindset about it, and working on it. So it can, I know, be changed and improved and banished. But the turning point first is the decision to do so. So his decision to sort this out, and he didn't want this to actually happen and his day be ruined as father of the bride. So he made that choice. Mine was on that course, choosing I can't let this become my future. So I made that decision. So today, one of the takeaways of today is, what is holding you back? And how is it manifesting itself? Why? And what is it preventing you from doing? And therefore, what's the result, the negative result that it's having? So, for example, I then started to work on it. And the trick on working on it is a little bit at a time. So for me, I didn't then go and get some help from somebody, but I started building on it myself. A little bit at a time. I would speak up in a little meeting of 2 people and then 3 people, etc., and build on it until I felt comfortable with each of those sizes. And then when I could do 3 or 4 people around the table, I would make myself then take ownership of the flip chart, make myself go up and put something on the flip chart in front of them and discuss it standing there, so all stand up. And then build on that, and maybe 3, 4, 5 people, I would do a small PowerPoint presentation and feel comfortable with that. And then the audience would get a larger size and a larger size. In the training workshops that I would run for the company as the training manager, because I took the role, got the role, and I have to say thoroughly enjoyed the role. And actually now at 53, if I hadn't taken that training role, I wouldn't have learned all the training techniques that I have learned. I then had a family and decided not to go back, but decided to set up my own business and freelance and build on the coaching and get some more qualifications in the coaching and more techniques and more training whilst the children were having their naps. In the day, I would be doing my assignments, and in the evenings, I would do coaching while they were in bed. So I built this business around the children so that I could still bring the children up, but develop and my own skill set and develop my client base and grow my business. So had I not overcome that fear, I don't know what I would be doing today. I certainly wouldn't be doing this podcast. By overcoming that fear, it opened so many doors for me. I truly do not know what life would be like now if I hadn't. So this is my thought for you. If you can overcome this fear that's holding you back, think now, the second point now, is to imagine what will life be like? What will you be able to do as a result? What is your goal? Where could you take this future if you get rid of this rucksack with the big heavy block in it that you're carrying around? Because not only is it a question of making that decision to improve it and change it and get rid of it, it's also important to imagine what it's going to be like instead and what you're going to replace it with, what you're going to fill your life with rather than these fears, because that then is really powerful. You start to consider the possibilities. You start to visualize them and dream about them and let them become a reality. And that's very, very powerful in the change too. How could life be? And let that excite you and let that expand. So spend some time doing that too. Now, I often work in schools. I run 7-8 week programs in life skills and confidence for 14, 15-year-olds. And I think it's so exciting that the schools are doing this now, because at 14 or 15, you're very, very impressionable, and it's a great age to give you these tools and techniques, many, many tools and techniques that I cover on confidence. Because, as I say, I know that the end result, if we're not given those and we struggle already, and someone doesn't help us at that age, I know that through adulthood you carry it with you, as I did for those years, as the guy with doing the best man's wedding speech. It has as many of the executives that come to me have, they've carried their shyness and social anxiety for years and years and years, and so on. And I think, if you can help a youngster and give them the toolbox and the strategies at that young, impressionable age, where will their life go in the future? Where it might not have, had they continued with sort of life struggles and confidence crises and lack of self-esteem and belief. So it is incredibly exciting. But why I'm telling you that is because at the beginning of each of those programs, I ask all of them to tell me where they are least confident and where they are most confident. So, for example, they may say, and this is a common one, so frequently I'm told I'm really nervous putting my hand up. I hate putting my hand up in class and I'll say why, and they'll say because if I get it wrong, everybody will laugh at me and they'll pick on me and so on. Or they'll judge me, or they'll think this or that. And they won't speak to new people when they arrive at the school, and they don't like speaking to the adults, going to reception and asking for the register, or the caretaker and asking for more soap in the toilets, or anything like that. So that's where they're least wobbly. Where are you most wobbly? In drama, I love drama, or in on the rugby pitch, or at netball, or with my playing my flute, whatever it is for them. So the point is that we've all got to areas where we are confident, so we know what it feels like, and we've all got areas, if we're struggling, where we're very, very wobbly, completely out of our depth. Now, one girl comes to mind here where she was excruciatingly shy. She would not put her hand up in one single class. Wouldn't get involved, very nervous, very shy. She did the 7-week program, and then she re-signed the next term. It was a voluntary activity that they could sign up for, and she came back and said, I want to do it again, because I enjoyed it. So she came back, and then she did a half of another one. And so this child, she was 14 or 15, went from not speaking to a soul, really, unless it was just her friend, somebody that she felt safe with. She wouldn't dip her toe and talk to strangers, and she, not strangers, I mean new people, and she wouldn't or interact in class. In 2.5 terms, she went from that to herself volunteering to do a full school assembly. She put herself forward to stand up in front of the full school. It was a large-ish secondary school, and present at assembly. For herself, for her own development, she put herself forward, and she loved it. It was such transformation. So 2.5 terms, that's how quickly she turned that around. Just by simply, she signed up for it because she knew she wanted to change things. B, she imagined what the future could be like. And C, she started to do something about it. She, each day, pushed herself a little bit. Building on it and building on her little successes, small steps. I often say to clients, how do you eat an elephant? Of course, it's one step at a time. So she would do one thing each day to just slightly challenge her confidence and build on her confidence set and overcome these fears. So at first, she agreed that she would try and put her hand up once a day. She would make herself do that. It was terrifying for her. And the following week she would come back. How did it go? Yeah, it was all right. I did do it. Did anybody did you get the answers right or wrong? Mostly right, sometimes wrong. And what was the outcome? Did anybody laugh? No, nobody laughed. How did it feel? It was okay. Excellent. So then we moved on to putting a hand up once a lesson. So from once a day, she went to once a lesson. And then very quickly, actually putting her hand up wasn't an issue. So we started building on speaking to people she had never spoken to. Say in the lunch queue, or making herself go to reception and asking for the register for the teacher or the caretaker for some soap or paper towels or whatever. And then outside of school, she started building on it. She would make herself do some other activities outside of school, or make friends with people outside of school, people in her street or neighbourhood or something like that. So she built on it and built on it and built on it until she quite quickly, as I said, felt so much better, overcame it, and pushed herself further into really frightening things that she'd never tried before, to the point where she put herself forward for the whole school assembly. Now, her future is going to be so much wider and more opportunities now for herself because she did this. She did the work. By the way, it's the clients that do the work, not me. I just sort of kind of support them along the way. So that's how she did it. Now, I was recently listening to a podcast. By the way, if I haven't mentioned this already, if you want another good, well, I'm not saying mine's good, but this is a great podcast. This one is called Don't Tell Me the Score by Simon Mundy, Mundie. I think it's on the BBC website, BBC, if you go onto the web you can find it. Don't Tell Me the Score. It's brilliant. It's mostly sporty people, but they are talking about life lessons that they've learnt along the way in their sport that are applicable to real life, and sport is symbolic for life in that podcast. So many subjects, from motivation, resilience, overcoming fear, all sorts. And the overcoming fear one is the one I'm thinking of now, and that was Alex somebody. I can't remember his surname, apologies, but he is the only person that has ever climbed El Capitan free solo, i.e. no ropes or harnesses at all, nothing, no safety aspect at all, by himself. And I was listening to his podcast, and I then later searched out the documentary which was on the TV and watched it. So I knew the outcome, but it was still very difficult watching, because what he does is absolutely incredible. And it's terrifying to watch that simply at any second, by a fraction of a second, by just slightly putting one hand wrong or one foot wrong, he is literally hanging off the side of a sheer cliff face, thousands of feet up. At any second, he could slip to an absolute sudden and certain death. And the interviewer was saying, how did you overcome your fear of this? Because it's terrifying. You can't practice this. You knew at any moment you could slip and fall and die instantly. How did you cope with that? How did you stop your mind thinking, I could die any minute now? And the chap Alex was saying, it's just a fear that it doesn't scare him like it would the majority of the population, actually, and quite rightly so, probably, for survival. But he said it just wasn't a fear that was an issue for him at all. And he talks at length. I'm reducing it down a lot. But the interesting thing for me was he said that his real fear in life was talking to people, with social fears, far worse, excruciatingly so. He was saying in this interview that, in fact, while he was going through university, or he's American, I think, so it was high school or something like that, when he was going through school, for 3 years, he didn't speak to anybody. He stayed in his dorms, only spoke to his tutor when he had to go for a tutorial, didn't get involved with the lectures. He would just be silent in the lecture hall, and didn't make a single friend in 3 years. Didn't socialise at all, because he was incredibly shy and anxious socially and fearful. He said it would terrify him. But he then went on to say he decided he had to overcome that, and he worked on it, in his words, on a daily basis. He made himself every day just do a little bit more socially. So he started off by saying, I would just make myself open the doors and walk into a bar, and then I'd walk back out, and then I would build on that and make myself just stand there or stay in there for 10 seconds with my heart thumping and my palms all clammy, etc. And then when I could do that, I would build on that more and make it longer. And then I quickly got to the point where I could just go up to the bar and order a drink. I may not actually stay and drink it, I may then leave, but I'd got to that point. Then I would make myself stay and sit by myself, drink, go. And then I made myself just converse a little bit with the barman, talk about the weather or the news topic or whatever. And then he reached the point where he could talk to fellow drinkers, just one-liners, and then ultimately he could have a conversation. And he now has a girlfriend and friends, and they were all there on the documentary filming him, his support crew and so on. And he was obviously at the point now where he could even be interviewed and do a documentary. So he had absolutely overcome that fear from a start point of being desperately shy and not talking to anybody in 3 years, to being filmed and chatting comfortably-ish on camera. You could still see he was slightly awkward, but way further than he had been in his younger years. So again, a classic example of how we can do it, small steps at a time. But he made the decision first and then started building on it. So no matter what your fear, you can either once you decide this is it, it's got to stay in the past, what could my life be like once I quickly and soon overcome this? What will be my reality? Get excited by that potential, because it's absolutely out there for you, without a doubt. The only thing that's getting in our way, really, is ourselves, and we've got to get out of our own way. And as you found in previous episodes, that is possible. We can change what we're saying in our head. We can equally change what we do. This one is not only what we're saying in our head, but it's also about our actions. It's doing different things each day, making ourselves talk to that person in the service station or the supermarket or in the school playground, another parent that we've never spoken to, or whatever it is, person at work in the cafeteria area, coffee area, talk to somebody we've never spoken to every single day. Or make yourself speak up once in every meeting. Have it prepared, have it rehearsed. Know what you're going to say. Make yourself say it. And then do twice in meetings once you're comfortable with that, etc. So build on these things. If you want help, then you know where I am, Dawn at milestone-coaching.co.uk. If you want to look at the website, by the way, because there's all sorts of things on there, there are dates, times for free workshops through the year on confidence or stress management or sometimes goal settings, etc. So have a little look through the website. There's a blog, all sorts, and all of the services that I offer, the trainings and the coachings. Don't think that geography, by the way, is an issue. It's absolutely not, because I do phone and FaceTime coaching. So no matter where you are, if you want a one-to-one session, then please drop me a line through the email or website, www.milestone-coaching.co.uk. If not, I wish you a very, very strong, confident week. Go out there with your actions. Start doing little things. Build on them. Small steps. Enjoy your successes. Celebrate your successes. Be proud of them, no matter how small they are, that you are moving forward. And be proud of yourself and build on them. And share them with me if you want to drop me an email. It'd be lovely to hear from you. If there's any subject you want me to cover in the future, also drop me a line and suggest it. Please rate and review this podcast if you've got a second, because it helps others who might be similarly struggling with an issue find it, and they may get the help that they're looking for at the right time. So I'll stop rambling now. I'm going uphill, as you can hear, through wet grass. Oof. Anyway, see you next week. Thank you so much for choosing this podcast. Take care and have a good week.